my lovelies. How are you? Welcome back to another episode of Evil Lives Here. Very excited. Very excited. For those of you who are new, my name is Erin. This is Ageless Beauty with Erin. And we discuss true crime and beauty. Kind of an equal opportunity kind of gal. Don't they always go together? Well, in my world, kind of. So, for those that are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. A little bit about what I do. I've sat down and watched this episode, took my little notes, made my little, which are over here. So you see me looking at my notes. And then I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do my makeup as we discuss this. So, it's a series titled Evil Lives Here. It's on the Discovery Channel. And yeah, we're going to discuss it. So those of you that are new, welcome back. I'm always glad to have you. I appreciate you more than you understand for being with me, for sticking with me for the years. And I appreciate every one of you. So I will not discuss the makeup I'm using while we're talking about this episode. Everything will be linked below in the comment section, along with my ambassador notes, links, and codes that you can use for discounts. So, if you have any questions, hit me up. Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to jump right in. Hi, guys. Quickly breaking in as I want to talk about my 1-Up nutrition. I know you've seen it by now. I've talked about it a lot. This stuff is amazing. If you are looking to add protein to your life, if you're looking to help gut health, looking for supplements to help with different levels, different issues, check them out. 1upnutrition.com. The letter 1, the number 1, UP Nutrition. It's so good. Today's lunch is my protein, ISO protein premium whey chocolate milkshake. This has 110 calories for 1 scoop. For, let me see, how much? 25 grams of protein. And then I put in a cup of frozen strawberries, 50 calories. Guys, that's my calories for lunch, 160 calories. And it is so good. And with the strawberries, it really feeds my sweet tooth. So, and helps me make sure I get my protein goals. So guys, go check it out. When you're there, they have challenges. They have different things that you can sign up for, newsletters. I love this place. I love everything about 1-Up Nutrition. And every time you order something, you get free samples. You can try different things. You don't have to have one flavor. You get protein, try a different flavor in the samples and the free stuff. So go check it out. 1upnutrition.com. Use my code ERIN20, ERIN20 for 20% off. If you're looking for a good protein and for a way to change some bad habits, stuff's amazing. I have been taking it for, 6 months to a year, and I love it. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. And now, let's get back to the show. All right. So today we are doing season 4, episode 1 of Evil Lives Here. Like I said, it is on the Discovery Channel or the ID channel. They're the same. I really don't know what it is called. I watch it on the app because I'm only on season 4 and it's got like 12 seasons I think now, and the new episodes are still on like regular TV, but I have to use the app to get to the old ones. This titled episode is I Invited Him In, and it was originally aired August 13th, 2018. So, pulling it back a little bit for you. Okay, so we're going to start this episode hearing from a lady who's coming in and sitting down to talk with us. And, you know, they get her mic'd up and she sits there. And she says that she's nervous and anxious to have to go back in time to discuss what happened to her. And she says, I often wonder why he didn't kill me. She was the one that brought him in, which we'll discuss all of this, obviously. This is just the prelude. And I'm guessing when she says, I brought him in, she means to her family and friends, whatever. We'll discuss that. But she's nervous. She's the one that brought him into their lives. And she said, all I had to give him was my love. All he gave me was tragedy. That's not cool, dude. Not cool. So we do have a little change of, and you have heard me talk about this if you've seen any of my episodes. They don't typically give us dates, times, or places. So when you get kind of any of that, it's a nice little change. And for now, it says August 1992 is when Nathaniel White goes on TV and confesses something he has done. So we actually have a date. It's a good little timeline for us so we know when events are happening. There's a video now, which you've heard me talk about. You know, I love how Evil Lives Here does these real videos, like news coverage, and that's what this is. This is a news coverage, and it's a guy who I'm going to assume, and it is Nathaniel, saying, and I quote, when I first start smelling blood, I just completely bug out, end quote. So now the lady, which we still don't know her name, watches this video. She says that she could see the evil in his eyes. And from the time they met until the time he confessed, he completely changed. She says, yeah, he's not the same person. And then we get the really cool intro to The Evil Lives Here, which if you follow me, you know I love that intro. I'll eventually quit talking about how much I love that intro. Just not today. So, okay. So we find out the mystery lady, her name is Jill Garrison. And she's Nathaniel White's ex-girlfriend. And she says when she first met him, she was a single mother raising 2 children. She'd been divorced. And she went out one night with her cousin, and they went to a tavern, bar, whatever you call them, where you live. And apparently when the cousin left, I don't know why, when, or where, but she left and Jill was alone, Nathaniel approached her. And she said it had been a while since any guy had shown her attention. I mean, I guess she'd been married for a while, then she was divorced and didn't go out. So it was nice having attention that Nathaniel was giving. She says that he was attractive and well-dressed, and that very nicely spoken, whatever. It just drew her in. And she said after 6 months of phone calls and weekend visits, so key, they don't live in the same area, they move in together. And I'm thinking, just my personal opinion, 6 months is pretty quick, period. Honestly, you're getting to know somebody, and you know them pretty well at 6 months, you would think, you would hope. So I'm not saying she didn't know him. I'm saying that she had 2 young daughters. I don't know if they're young. I know they are young. It doesn't really tell us they're young, but she has 2 young daughters. And you're inviting him to move in with you, and I don't know. I just found it very, very quick. But to each their own. If it worked for them, it worked for them. Like, I get it. when my husband and I first started dating, we lived an hour, a little over an hour apart, and we were both young, and it was, you know, early 90s, so there wasn't cell phones that were readily available. There wasn't even a long distance phone plan. Like, it cost me $400 a month to call him, and it cost him $500 a month. So at that point, we got an apartment. It was cheaper. Rent was cheaper than trying to talk to each other through phone. And that could have been what they dealt with. What I know now is it was before even the 90s when they did that. So yes, they would have had the same issues. And, but 18-year-old Aaron didn't have kids when we moved in together. 20-something-year-old Jill has 2 young daughters. So I don't know. To each their own. It worked for them. That's great. That's fine. I guess I should say if it works for them. But either way, it's just an observation. Take it for what it is. Okay, so then we see a picture. Again, this series is really great about showing actual video footage and pictures, from the early years or the case or whatever it happens to be. I like seeing the actual family pictures. It's not just a reenactment that you're seeing most of the time. And it's a picture of Jill and Nathaniel. And Jill says this is when they first got together. He was very polite, timid, shy. She felt safe and loved by him. So again, of course she'd want to have him move in. I mean, she thought he was a keeper. She thought he was a really good guy. She thought she landed. And it doesn't ever talk about her first marriage or her only marriage. I don't think her and Nathan ever married. She's always listed as the ex-girlfriend, so I don't think they married. So her only marriage that we know of at this point, we don't know anything about it. If it was a bad marriage, how it ended, why it ended, it's never even mentioned. So I don't know if she had any bad past experiences, is what I'm saying. But it goes back to why she would trust him to move in. She felt treasured. She felt loved by him. And it's, it talks about weekend visits and phone calls. So when he moved in, he would have had to relocate, which it later does state this. But she says when he moved in, he didn't have a job. So it was very difficult for him to find work. And the bills start piling up, as they do when you have a house, let's see, there would have been 4 in the house. So it would have built up. And that's normal. And without him being able to find a job, frustrations would mount. I get it. I don't think any of us could sit here and say they don't understand that. At least if you do, then good for you. Honestly. Because I get it. Been there. Done that. Okay. So she said he would go out looking for a job. He'd be out all day and evening and just couldn't get anybody to call him back. And he was getting anxious. He was getting frustrated. And at this point, she doesn't really say they argued or anything, but she says, he was frustrated. And then one morning, while they're eating eating breakfast, I don't know, they get a knock on the door and she answers it, and it's the police. And they were there to pick Nathaniel up because there was a complaint that he had been seen robbing a convenience store. So needless to say, Jill was like, what the hell? No, he wasn't. He wouldn't do that. I mean, just the whole defending him. And just very upset with the police, she said. I couldn't believe you knock on my door for this false complaint of him robbing a bank. Robbing a convenience store, excuse me. Just ridiculous. And she's like, tell him you didn't do it. Tell him you didn't do it. And in a twist I didn't see coming, he admitted to it. Said that yes, he did rob the convenience store because they didn't have any money and he was trying to help out. She was mad. We would be, right? Normal to be mad. They were having, she says, yes, we were having financial difficulties, but you don't go rob a store. That shouldn't have been his first thought, right? So, of course, the police took him in. He was arrested. And in my opinion, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, that's going to cause a whole lot more headaches than not being able to pay an electric bill or whatever it is that they're having financial problems with. Now you're going to jail. You got to, you know, the whole court system, and I don't really know how that works. I guess I'm thankful I don't know how that works. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, I was thinking that's just a lot more headaches and hassle than what you were already dealing with, in my opinion. And on a side note, can you hear this wind? Man, it seems like every time I try to record a video, the weather just decides, let me say hello. Anyways, I apologize. So, she says that she just chalked it up to a dumb mistake. He was very contrite. He was sorry. And she was sympathetic. So, he went, cops took him away in handcuffs. He went to jail. And thankfully, or not, depends on how you look at it since we are here, he didn't have a gun or any kind of weapon, so it wasn't an armed robbery, which I know armed robbery obviously is a lot stricter, a lot harsher punishments, but so no armed robbery, just a robbery, and he had no prior record, so he got off with 1 month in jail and probation. So, I mean, I guess that's pretty quick, or pretty, not quick, but he got lucky, right? She says she blamed herself. This is going to be a habit that's going to drive me crazy this whole show. But she says that she's the one that mentioned how they were tight on money and because he wasn't working. And I'm thinking, how's that your fault? Because surely he knew, right? I know what our finances are, same as my husband knows. I might know more than my husband in some cases, but we both are aware. Anyways, I don't know how to feel about her blaming herself. And like I said, unfortunately, this becomes kind of a thing for them. But she chalked it up to a dumb mistake. So he needed to serve his time. He needed to get out, get a job, and deal with it. Just, it'll all work out. That was just how she was going to look at things now. However, when he returned from jail, and you knew there was going to be a however. You knew it. I knew it. I wasn't shocked when the next thing out of her mouth was however. But when he got out of jail, his behavior started to change. And I'm like, okay. First of all, he was in jail. I think many of us have heard the whole they change while they're in jail scenario, right? Second of all, did it just start changing, or has it always been that way and you didn't notice? Was it something you kind of ignored? I don't know. But she says his behavior was changing. And when he got out of jail, she helped him find a job. So he finally has a job, and things were starting to get better. Even though his behavior was changing, things were getting better. He was working, and he had it in his head. Now that he was working, he was going to go buy her some new outfits. He was going to dress her up. They were working. He had a job. They were going to start going out on the town. However, the clothes he started buying her were a little risque. She wasn't happy with it. Said the dresses, like skin tight dresses that were very, very short, like booty type short. And yeah, it wasn't her style. It wasn't what she would normally wear. And when she kind of questioned him, said, this isn't my type of clothes, he would say things that I find very degrading, but they would be, well, come on, baby, you know you got the body for that, show it off, type of thing. Just degrading. And even though she was unhappy, even though she didn't like it and it wasn't her normal style, she'd agreed that she would wear them to make him happy. It's what he liked. So she just went along with it to please him. Now, apparently, they spent weekends at the park. So he was in a basketball league. And it was very normal for them to be at a park, some kind of basketball tournament or something, right? So they would go every weekend. And he wanted her to start wearing these dresses. And at first she's like, what do you mean? These dresses are not appropriate for a park where there's kids and or whatever. She pushed back and he's like, oh, this is what I want you to wear, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that whole thing. So yeah, he wanted her to wear these dresses. And again, she knew these dresses were not appropriate to wear to a park. But she did. She wanted to please him. So that first weekend, they go to the park. She says she's sitting in the stands and a couple of friends that she knew come over. Now I want to point out, she said friends that she knew. But they're guys. And they're talking to her and, you know, telling her she looks good, whatever, right? She never once says these guys were degrading. She never once said they insulted her. Anything. They come over, talked to her, and told her she looked good. Well, Nathaniel didn't like that. Now, let me remind you, he's playing basketball. He is on the court. She's in the stands. He cannot hear a damn thing being said. But he don't like it that she's drawing attention. And they fight about it. And he says to her, and I quote, I don't like the idea that all these guys are talking to you, end quote. And I'm like, what do you think was going to happen? Did you think, I got a lot of fallout. Did you think you were going to take her to the park in these scandalous little dresses, put her in a little bubble where nobody could see her and all she could do was look at you? No, he was mad because she was getting attention. So, of course, they argue about it because she's like, I'm wearing this dress because it's what you wanted me to wear. And he's being a jerk. He's telling her that it's not okay for her to do that. And, you know, it's her fault she's wearing the dress. It's her fault she attracted attention and whatever. But he's pissed and tells her that she's supposed to be at the park to watch him. Watch him. Not talk to anybody else, to watch him play ball. That she didn't know how to act. And she says that she was surprised. She had never seen that jealous side of him. And, of course, she's telling him, you know, she's just trying to please him and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, don't blame the dress. You just can't talk to other guys. So, very controlling. And she says, this is the first time she's seen his jealous side, but I'm like, I don't know honestly, was it the first time you saw it? Is it the first time that it came to a head like that? I just don't get it. I really don't understand. And I hate this. I hate this with everything that I am. She told him, okay. She told him she would go watch him play ball, stand to the side by herself, and not talk to anybody. I have to give myself a minute on that one. And I have to figure this look out because I'm not liking what it's doing. Anyways, she said he would calm down. It would be okay for a little bit until the next weekend or the next time he wanted to go out, you know, and then it would start all over again. He would do the same thing. He would yell at her. He would blame her for attention she was getting and so on and so forth. She said it was a constant light switch in their house. He was on, he's off, he's on, he's off. She said she had no idea how to act. She just wanted to make him happy. She just didn't want him to be angry. She just wanted everything to be okay. And yeah, obviously it wasn't. So, okay. I'm just heartbroken over that, truthfully. So then she tells us the story of her brother's daughter, Christine, that would come over to the house and play with her daughters. And she said, you know, normal. They would play hide and seek. They would roughhouse. They would do just different things. And she said, you know, she would play with them. Nathan or Nathaniel. She called him Nathan a lot, so I'm trying not to because it was so confusing to me. But Nathaniel would play with, I say that in the next word out of my mouth, would play with them. And said nothing out of the ordinary. And she said one time Christine was over at the house, and when she left for the night, you know, they are sitting around, which is Jill and Nathaniel, the girls, playing cards when she gets a phone call from her brother. And her brother's upset, as he should be, saying that Christine has told him that Nathaniel has touched her inappropriately. Hell hath no fury. Anyways, this eye look is not doing well for me. I'm just going to make it worse if I keep playing with it. Let's clean it up a little bit and see what we can do. Anyways, so she's like, in disbelief, I guess is the right word. And she said that they were all standing there or sitting in the kitchen or living room when the phone call came. And so she asked Nathaniel about it. And of course he denied it. And he was like, oh no, I would never do anything like that. She must have misunderstood. We were playing. I must have accidentally touched her. Whatever. To him, he did no wrong. And she says she told her brother that. And her brother was like, I don't know, but Christine won't be back over to your house. And I wanted to say, good for you. Sorry about that. Forgot to go on Do Not Disturb. So I was like, good for you. And in my case, I'm like, well, it wouldn't have just been for a while. I don't think my daughter would be back over there, period, unchaperoned. But anyways, he was telling her that Christine won't be back to their house for a while. And, you know, Jill says I'm going to say, I had a bad feeling. That's what she said. I had a bad feeling. And I wanted to yell, listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. But she said, but when I was talking to the girls, they backed him up and they were just playing, and it must have been a misunderstanding. So her girls were saying that it was a misunderstanding. They were just roughhousing, and Nathaniel has denied it. So she just goes on. Just goes on. And I'm going to tell you, I said I had a bad feeling about this. Well, they gave us Christine's name. And they never give us names of the kids unless there's something awful that happens. And, yeah. Anyways, so the incident is forgotten. Jill says that Christine doesn't come back to their house for a few months, or for a little while, I should say. She doesn't say how long. Nothing ever really, they never really say how long. But, okay. Says a few months later, so this has been a few months, and I'm thinking she probably hasn't been to her house for a few months. At least, like I said, the best I can do with the information I'm given. But Christine, I did that earlier. Christine goes missing. So one day she was going to her friend's house and never made it back home. So obviously everybody is up in arms and looking for Christine, and they all end up at the brother's house, where he had organized like this really large search party, which good for him. And people were going over to his house to organize and do a search. So there was active searches. Now, I find out that she's only 14. And at this point, the police are looking at the possibility that she's a runaway, right? Because at that age or whatever. But in something that I want to say doesn't happen enough, but did happen, the police did actively take part of searching for Christine. And I love that. Even if there was a suspicion that she might have just ran away, they still looked for her. So they had a search party. They had flyers they were putting out. Jill says Christine didn't show up for a week. 2 weeks. Then a month. And nobody knew where Christine was. Now, another good thing about, like I said, there's a lot of good things about the show, but they show the actual missing poster they had put together for Christine, and it says, this is what it was. Her name was Christine Marie Klebb. She was 14 years old, missing June 1st, 1992. And remember, the episode started with the date August 1992. So very quickly, her disappearance goes right into that. It says to call the Goshen police. I have no idea where that's at. It doesn't say states or anything. And I will tell you, there's a lot of Goshens, including where I live. I looked it up just to see if I could find out where they were at, which is on Goshen. Couldn't, so I had to continue on and find out later where they were at. So, Christine is now a missing person. They're all actively looking for her, including the police. And it's been a month when they couldn't find anything. So after that incident with Christine, Jill says Nathaniel's demeanor started to change. He became more distant and stayed out later in evenings. He would come home about 10 o'clock every night, saying he was at the basketball courts playing. She's like, I didn't know anything about basketball. She could have been. But when she would question him, about staying out late every night, it would cause a fight. And he would say things like, what, are you giving me a curfew now? it would be her fault for asking him about staying out late and coming home and whatever, saying you have a family here. You don't need to stay out every night. And then, of course, she would apologize. It's easier to apologize than to fight with him. And she would apologize. She would back down from the fight. Soon as he would start in on her after she questioned or said something, she backed down. And I have to say, I don't know what that feels like. I don't think I've ever backed down from a fight with my husband. And I'm here to tell you that I'm sure he wished I would occasionally. But anyways, that's enough about me. So now she's telling us, and I don't know time periods. It's not mentioned, and I will say that as I was doing this, I come to the realization, and I'll tell you why at the end, but this was before Christine went missing. But one mid-morning, they get a knock on the door. And it's the police. And they're there for Nathan. And, you know, Jill's like, man, again? What's going on? And yada, yada, yada. So anyways, the police say they have a complaint that had a complaint from a young lady that he tried to kidnap her. Of course, he is innocent. He did no such thing. Just like I'm not poking myself in the eye. And when they told him where the incident happened, and it happened in a car, he started coming up with excuses. Oh, I went to the convenience store to buy beer and saw this girl walking, and it's late, it's dark, it's not safe, so I offered her a ride. Anybody would. Well, maybe, I don't know. But he offered this girl a ride. But he didn't try to hold her against her will. He wasn't there to kidnap her. I mean, that's just crazy talk. You know, he's just a friendly guy. He's just offering to help this poor innocent little girl. Young lady. I don't know how old she is. But this young lady said that, yes, she accepted his ride. Yes, she got in the car with him. Yes, I'm blind. I need the glasses. And, but he wouldn't let her out. He was holding her against his will. Or her will, excuse me. And as soon as she found the opportunity, she jumped out of the car and ran. Went straight to the police, good for her, and filed the report. Okay, good for her. And then, I don't know how long, but then the cops come knocking on Nathaniel and Jill's door. So, police took him to the police station. You know, it's a he said, she said. It doesn't really say if there was any other proof or witnesses or, you know, camera footage. But he did go to the court. He was arrested, or to jail. He was arrested. Even though he kept saying she had it wrong. He didn't do that. But nobody believed him. It's truthfully, is what it boils down to. And then she keeps thinking, Jill keeps thinking, she has doubts. Did he really try to? That's just not like him. He wouldn't try to do something like that. And she says that she was kind of like in a spider web. She was caught in this web in a relationship. She wanted to please him, and by doing that, she would reason out everything that happened. There was reasonings for it. So she knew, or she does now know, that she was just coming up excuses for his bad behavior. And it says that Nathaniel pleaded guilty to misdemeanor and spent a year in jail. So nobody believed him about holding the girl, you know, trying to kidnap said girl. And I didn't expect a year. I don't know what I thought. But two things I noticed. I was really confused on the whole year with the misdemeanor. I thought maybe, I don't know what I thought, but we'll get to that because it does explain why he ended up getting a year. And then, this is when I realized the timeline. So I'm telling this story out of order. So they've already talked about Christine, but this is no way it happened because Christine goes missing in June or July. He confesses in August of 92, and now he's going to jail for a year. So this is clearly well before that. I'm really unsure why the timeline is so out of whack, but there you have it. Just wanted to point that out because I didn't catch that at first, and then it dawned on me, I'm like, wait a minute. There's only months between Christine and the end of this story, not a year where he goes to jail. I got that everywhere. So, thought I would point that out for anybody else that might be a little confused. Slash doesn't want to go on. So now we hear another story of a friend of Jill's named Laurette. And Laurette and Jill were friends, and she'd come over occasionally and bring her kids, and they would play with Jill's kids. No big deal. So one time when Laurette was there, the kids playing, she says that she was moving back home to the West Indies and asked them if they had any boxes, which they did. And Nathaniel was like, yeah, I'll bring them over to you or whatever, right? No big deal. So they're getting her some boxes to help her move. I guess he's going to help pack up some stuff. I don't know. Anyways, it's about a week after that visit, and Jill's like, you know, Laurette was supposed to come by, and we were going to get back together before she left to say, so I could say goodbye, because she's moving back to the West Indies. She's like, I'm tired of being cold. I'm going back home to the Caribbean. And Jill's like, and we were supposed to meet back up, and I never heard from her. And I was like, what's going on? Well, it was the Sunday, I guess after the week. Sunday, she got the newspaper, and she found out her friend had been murdered. So Laurette had been killed and found in her apartment. I don't know anything about where the kids were, how many she had, but yeah, so she's dead. And Jill is devastated. She's talking to, you know, Nathaniel about it, and he's like, oh my God, that's awful. She was fine when I was there giving her boxes. I don't know who would want to do that to her. Yeah, no, don't either. So, yeah, Jill wanted to go to the funeral, visitations and all that. And Nathaniel's like, absolutely not. We're not going. She's like, what do you mean we're not going? This was my friend. I want to go to her visitation. I want to say goodbye to her. But he's like, I've got a record. They'll look at me and blame me for something. Me. So, personally, I would have still gone. She was a friend of mine, you know, devastatingly murdered. And that doesn't mean Nathan had to go, but I would have gone. Nathaniel, Aaron, stop. So, say if it had been me, if my husband wouldn't have gone, I would have still gone. But she didn't. So she felt bad, but she didn't go because Nathaniel was worried he'd be blamed. And she's like, I lost Christine. We don't know where she's at. And now my friend. So it was just a really rough time. sure. 100% sure it was. So, yeah, we had Lauren's name, so I knew it wasn't going to be good. But, yeah, she's upset now because she's lost, or not, I keep saying lost Christine, but she's gone. They don't know where Christine's at, and now she's lost a friend. So, I get it. Okay. So now she goes into talking about how, Nathaniel is still coming home late, playing ball, and, showing up late. And one night, he comes home, and he's got these scratches on his arm. And she said, oh my gosh, those don't look good. What happened? And he's like, oh, basketball. I had the ball, so I was trying to get it. Yada, yada. Now, I'm going to say, I played basketball my whole life. This is something that would be very believable. And there would be absolutely no reason for anybody to question the legitimacy of having scratches if you're out playing ball. So the fact that this doesn't alert anybody does not surprise me. It wouldn't me. It wouldn't me. So, yeah. And, but, you know, there were signs. That's the one thing that Evil Lives Here loves to say. There are signs. But how, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't have noticed that. Basketball gets rough. And, you wouldn't link the girls missing, Christine being missing, her friend Laura being killed to some scratches on the basketball court. You just wouldn't. So, I'm okay with that. But, in something that is stated and literally makes me sick to my stomach, Evil Lives Here pops up with those little bubble things that they do occasionally and says that Jill's girls started acting weird. And literally the bottom dropped out of my stomach, right? Okay. And I really hope that she doesn't ignore these signs. The girls are acting this way. So she says that the girls started, so when she got to work, she worked the third shift. So she worked third shift and Nathaniel stayed home with the kids, which again makes sense. They live together. And he's raising these girls as his own. She's working nights. So he would be the one to stay home. Now, I did question the fact that she said earlier that he wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock or later most nights. And I have to wonder if she works third shift, so does she go in like at midnight, or I really don't know, because like I said, it also doesn't ever tell us what she does for a living. But her girls started acting funny and didn't want her to go to work. And she took it up to signs that they just want to spend more time with her. Right? But, you know, she had to work. Nathaniel's working too, but it was a 2-income family. So she had to work. But things escalated. And one night, the girls were still awake when she was getting ready to leave for work. And they were crying and begging her not to go and just being a little bit more than their usual don't go, I guess. It's like I said, they had started asking her to stay home more. And this one was really an escalation. And Jill says that she doesn't even know why it started, because apparently there were never problems before. But all of a sudden we were having some issues where the girls didn't want her to go to work. She didn't know why, what started it. And she asked Nathaniel about it. Why? Well, that night that it became extremely bad, she did stay home. And she told him, she says, I can stay home, but I can't do this every night. I have to work. And she said she asked Nathaniel what was going on. And he chalked it up. Oh, everything's fine. They're just being dramatic. Whatever, you know. He didn't give any help or whatever, explaining away why the girls would be acting like that. And she said one day, the girls didn't come home from school. And she started getting worried. She was always there when the girls got home from school. Working, I guess third shift was a perk, right? And I feel like I forgot something. I didn't. It's just later in the story. So anyways, so the girls didn't come home, and she said it was like 4 o'clock, and 4:30, so she calls the school, and she's like, hey, my girls have not gotten off the bus. Something's wrong. Is it broke down? She was thinking the bus was broke down. And they proceeded to tell her that she's talking to the principal, and the principal told her that one of her daughters went to a teacher and said that she didn't want to go home because she was being abused. My stomach dropped for Jill. I can't even imagine what Jill was doing or thinking during this time. And she's hysterical. She's upset. The principal's telling her that her daughter said that Nathaniel was touching her at night when her mom was at work, and she was being physically abused. This piece of hair needs to go somewhere. Thank you. So yeah, the kids will not be coming home today, or any day soon. That he couldn't and wouldn't tell them where the girls were, but they would need to call CPS to find out what next steps are and what to do, right? She became hysterical, as anyone would be. I mean, you go from thinking something's wrong and your kids are not coming home, to something is wrong, your kids aren't coming home, to their claims of abuse, and you're just finding out by the principal of your child's school. And I'm going to say, none of us are surprised that Nathaniel gets home shortly after she hangs up with the principal, and Jill's just losing it on him, right? As anybody would be when they find out something to this magnitude. And he's innocent. I don't know what they're talking about. This is all made up lies. Somebody's out to get him. Whatever. So he is talking to Jill about her innocence. About his innocence, excuse me. And that just want to get sick about this whole situation. I mean, I really do. So Nathaniel convinces her to go to the school and have the principal tell them where the girls are. Now, I wouldn't have done that. I honestly, I say that, and I will retract and say, maybe I would. I'm not 100% sure, because they have told me I needed to call CPS. So that's where I would start. CPS is going to know where my children are, going to know how I'm going to get my kids back. Going to school might be my first gut instinct. I agree. But at the same time, I don't think I would think it would be very beneficial. So, I mean, I would have been all over that phone. I would have been calling CPS. I would have been doing everything in my power to find out where my girls are. But Nathaniel has convinced her they need to go to school and find out where the girls are. So that's what they do. They get in the car. They're going to go to school. They're going to figure this out. And before they can even, I don't know, get out of the driveway, get out of the neighborhood, they're stopped. 2 police cars pull out in front of them and block their way. And they arrest Nathaniel. And, of course, you know, Jill doesn't know what the hell's going on. Nathaniel's being arrested. Her girls are missing. She's hysterical. She just wants her children back. She just doesn't have time to deal with the whole, you know, Nathaniel getting arrested again. And, of course, she has to go with him. So, there had been, and I skipped this somehow before, but there had been reports of missing women in the area. And it tells us it was in the Middletown, New York area. There was a rash of missing women, and 3 bodies had been found, and they believe there was a serial killer out there. And Nathaniel was being picked up and questioned on the missing women. So, Jill, I can't even imagine. I can't. I mean, my first thought would be my kids. And I know she's like, I need my kids. Where's my kids? What's going on? I want my kids. And now you're telling me I have to go to jail for questioning because you're picking up Nathaniel for these missing murders. I mean, there's just so much to unpack there. So, they are separated, and for the next 24 hours, they're both questioned separately about these murders, these missing women. Now, I don't think they ever thought Jill had anything to do with it, but they have to figure this out. They have to rule out the possibility that she is involved, that she knows anything, right? And it doesn't really say if they have proof that Nathaniel is the murderer, or if he's being taken in on suspicion. It just never really says. And it becomes a moot point. Here soon we'll find out why. So, for 24 hours, they're questioning Jill. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. She doesn't know anything about murder. She doesn't know what's being said about Nathaniel. She doesn't know where her children are. I honestly cannot imagine. So eventually the police come into the room and tell Jill that Nathaniel has confessed to killing the missing women and that he's a serial killer. I'm just going to say, you talk about the world just dropping out from under your feet. I don't think there's any other way to put that. So, she, of course, is in denial. There's no way Nathaniel can do that. No way he's that type of person. No way the man that she has been living with is a serial killer. Even though the cops tell her he's confessed. And not only confessed, he's written it out now. He has handwritten a confession. And she's still in complete denial. I would be too. I'm not going to say. I would be too. But, you know, he gave descriptions of what he had done. And she says it was really hard for me to grasp that the man she'd been living with and dating was able to do that. She didn't believe what they were telling her, even up to that point. So the police took her home and just happened to take a shortcut through a backcountry road to take her home. And on that backcountry road was Nathaniel with the police, showing him where he had dumped the bodies. So she said she saw him there talking to the police, pointing around, doing whatever he was doing. And she started thinking. She started thinking back to his first police arrest. The second one where the girl got away. Lorette. And she says she didn't want to look. She didn't want to see. She couldn't believe she had been so blind that the man that she had been with always defended him, believed him, stood up for him. He was evil. She was devastated. So, of course, when they get back to the house, they have a search warrant, and they go through her whole house. And it doesn't say if they found anything. It just says that it was later when she learned of all the crimes. And she, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. She said she couldn't stay in that house. Could not stay in the house. The girls weren't there. You know, that was the house that she lived in with the girls and Nathaniel. She just had to get away. It was a big house, apparently, that, I don't know, they owned, they rented. It never said. And so she went to her parents, where her brother was currently living too. Now, Christine hasn't been tied into any of this. But you know, I know, we know. So, they're showing us another news. And there's a lot of news video of Nathaniel talking and talking about what he did. So we're seeing this news video. Nathaniel's being taken out in cops, and it says 32-year-old Nathaniel White is a serial killer who confessed to murder of 6 young women. And she's at her house, or her parents' house. Her brother, her, mom and dad are all watching the news. She said she was in a state of shock. She said her whole family was in a state of shock. They just couldn't believe. Really couldn't believe that Richard was, not Richard, who's Richard? Nathaniel could do that. Some of these episodes just twist right in my head. So it says that the news report, the newscaster talking, says they believe that Nathaniel White would have continued killing if it hadn't been for the anonymous tip that led to his arrest. And I'm like, anonymous tip? All right. We need more of those in this world. Anyways. Jill's now talking. And she's definitely got what I call survivor's guilt. She doesn't know why she wasn't killed. She was the one that lived with him. She was the closest one to him. So she's really not sure why he never killed her. So, another actual video footage that we're seeing of Nathaniel confessing how he would pick up a girl, they would drive around, then he would just snap. He said there was no reason. He didn't know where it came from. And he confessed to killing those 6 women, including Lorette. Lorette was one of them. And it kills me, actually, that Jill's parents asked her if she knew. How could you not know? Basically, kind of blaming the victim, and Jill was a victim. She was a surviving victim, but she was a victim of Nathaniel. So there's more footage. Dude liked to be on TV, apparently. I don't even want to repeat everything he's saying, but basically he's saying that when he was murdering, he was stimulated. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until afterwards he would feel remorse. And I don't know if I believe this dude knew what remorse was and ever felt remorse. I'm just going to say that. I really do not think this dude was remorseful. But I was very confused because a lot of footage of him confessing on the national news, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, have I ever turned the TV on? Oh my gosh, I am bright. And just seen a serial killer get this much airtime. And I mean, this is, so you know he confessed in early 90s. So this is in the early 90s. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, this is just weird. He is getting a lot of airtime. Should we be giving him this much airtime? I mean, and then I'm like, okay. Now we have shows for that. We have the Datelines and the 2020s and the whatevers of the world that we didn't necessarily have then. So yes, we still do give serial killers that spotlight. It's just not on the everyday news, which shouldn't be, in my opinion, because kids watch the news. But again, just my opinion. Anyway, so we're getting to the most devastating revelation. So, as I said, Jill is staying at her mom and dad's, and her brother's staying there too. And there's one day they're all sitting around, they're watching the news, all these newscasts, all these videos, and this phone rings. And her brother gets up to answer the phone. And it's the police detectives. They are calling to tell him that his missing daughter, Christine, was one of Nathaniel's victims. You knew it. I knew it. And I'm really kind of surprised they didn't kind of start questioning it, because Christine was a missing girl. But anyways. So yeah. He has confessed to Christine and led them to her body. And I just can't even imagine the guilt and the pain and the suffering that Jill and her family, whole family, is going through. I'm sitting here watching Jill, real life Jill, not reenactment Jill, not whatever, but just blame herself for Christine's death. Just bawl and cry on this episode. She said she felt responsible. This was her fault. She's the one that brought him into their lives. And she's taken the blame of that. So she says when they found out, her brother wouldn't even look at her or talk to her. She says she was apologizing and trying to get him to, you know, just talk. And he went about his business, which was he had to go inform Christine's mother that their baby girl was dead. And so now we go to Christine's funeral, and so much footage of this funeral. Like, guys, leave this poor family alone. But they show Christine's funeral, her mom and dad, and Christine's mom and dad. And they talk. And Jill talks. She says, I had to go to the funeral. She said, I knew people were going to have something to say about that, but I had to go. She said, my brother didn't talk to me, but I needed to be there. And the footage is heartbreaking. Because you see Christine's mom and dad, and they're clearly upset. But then you see Jill just completely losing it. And even the newscasters, like, Christine's Aunt Jill, blah, 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 blames herself for her murder. And I'm like, so not only is this tragedy within your family, but it's now national. Now everybody is watching. And everybody's going to have something to say about it, obviously, because that's just how the world works. But you can't even keep it within your family. And she said, at the funeral, and I'm just, funerals really do bring out some of the worst traits in people. This one piece of hair, I'm about to cut it off. She said, while she's at the funeral, people would approach her and blame her for Christine's death. And I just wanted to be like, you gotta be kidding me. Wrong place. Wrong time. And Christine is a victim as well. I truly believe this. She is a living victim. She actually has to now live with everything the man she lived with and dated did, including what he did to her family. Including what he did to her family. And, yeah. Like I said, funerals are the worst. Just the worst. So Jill talks about how she brought him from out of town. She moved Nathaniel into her house, introduced him to her family, introduced him to her friends, to her community, to her town. She felt responsible. She put everybody she knew and the people around them in danger. She says she was responsible for that. That's just... She might have been responsible for the reason he moved to that town. She is not responsible for the things he did while he was there. So then it says Nathaniel White was convicted of 6 murders. Clean up that black spot. Christine Julianne Frank was 29. Angela Hopkins was 23. Adrienne Hunter was 27. Brenda Whiteside was 20. Laurette Riverier was 34. And I didn't mention it, Christine was the youngest at 14. And the Evil Lives Here does take a moment to show pictures of all the women, which I find, I'm glad they did. Sometimes the victims don't get enough acknowledgement. But then Jill is looking at the pictures as well. She's sitting there talking. And she says, and I quote, "They all looked at the same person I looked at and thought he was charming and kind. But he wasn't. He was the devil in disguise." End quote. Jill says she sees herself in these women because they were all innocent and naive, didn't believe that there was such thing as evil in this world. And Nathaniel was the one thing that all of them shared that convinced them that evil existed. And in Jill's case, he was living with her. So Nathaniel White was sentenced to 150 years to life in prison. Now, Jill says that she finally went to see him. I don't know. I don't know if I would have done that. That's a very personal thing. But she says she needed to go see him. Would you have done it? I'm curious. Would you have gone? I don't know if I could have. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if it's a could, but I don't know if I would have. So she says she wanted to look him in the eye and see if he would tell her the truth. She needed to ask him these questions, and she needed him to tell her. And I don't know, she doesn't say, but my best guess is that she needed some way to help ease the guilt that she was having and sharing. Guilt that's not hers, but she was still having said guilt. So she goes in and asks him how he could do these things, how he could take someone's life, how he could do whatever. And he looks at her and says, well, you know I wouldn't do that. Jill says he sat there and lied to her the whole time, saying it was all a mistake. He wouldn't murder anybody. What do you mean? The police coerced him into the confession. She said all she wanted, what she felt she deserved, was for him to tell her the truth. And he didn't. And she said it was a mistake. Or no, she said he was saying it was a mistake when he confessed. And when he took the time to write out that confession. And when he took the police to where the bodies were found. It was all a mistake. Misunderstanding. She called him out on it. Tell him it's not a mistake. You admitted this. You wrote it out. You told them where the bodies were. And he still was adamant it was a lie. So, after that, after he lied to her, point blank, she cut all ties with him. She says that she had a long road to rebuild her life and an even longer road to rebuild her relationships. She said she got her children back, which I was wondering about that, and it really doesn't go into much speculation, and I'm actually glad they were not there when the police showed up and arrested Nathaniel and they searched their house or whatever. But she says she's got her children back, but their relationship hasn't been the same. She said trust has been broken. And she told her daughter she was sorry that she wasn't there and apologized for not protecting her from Nathaniel. And she said that, I'm supposed to be the protector. And she wasn't. So she said that it's taken them years to regain the love and trust that they had and the bond that they once had. And it's not the same. It is not as strong as it used to be. And she said that she's always going to be fearful. And the girls are always going to be fearful of Nathaniel getting out on parole. Apparently he is appealing. So her and her daughters are afraid he's going to get out and come after them. I think it's a pretty legitimate fear myself. But what do I know? So she said she didn't used to believe in evil. She does now. She said it's all around her. And she even invited it in. And these were the consequences. I don't blame her. You cannot control what other people do. You control what you can control. You control your controllables. And someone else murdering innocent women is not something that you can control, especially if you don't know about it. Now, if you know about it, obviously. But there's nothing in anything I've seen, read, or heard that made me think she actually might have had an inkling he can murder. You know, he was jealous and had a temper, and they had all that going, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a murderer. So, okay. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this story. First place I end up is Wikipedia, and I'm looking at Nathaniel White. And he was born July 28th, 1960. Forgive me, I'm going to butcher this. He was raised in Poughkeepsie, New York. Moved to Middletown, New York with Jill. And lived with Jill for 16 months during his killing spree. Or he lived there for 16 months during his killing spree. So it was a very short killing spree. The first murder took place March 25th, 1991. And it lasted for 16 months and 92 before he was caught. So a little bit more about his victims. Juliana Frank was 29 and currently pregnant with her third child. Christina Klebb was the youngest at 14. Just finished her 8th grade year in school. She was Jill's niece. Laurette Riviere, which I'm assuming I'm saying that name right. If not, I apologize. She was 34. Jill's friend, and looking to move back to her hometown of St. Vincent and the Grenadines with her family. She had said that she was tired of the cold. Angelina Hopkins and Brenda Whiteside were cousins that met Nathaniel at a tavern. Brenda was 20, Angelina was 23, and they were last seen leaving the tavern with Nathaniel. Adrienne Hunter was 27, and I don't have any other information on her. So an anonymous tip is mentioned earlier. And it says that here it says, Angelina Hopkins' sister had witnessed Angelina and Brenda leaving the tavern with White and 3 other men. And when the sister went missing, she reported it to the police, who didn't do anything due to lack of evidence. So the sister and the mother continued to investigate and look into this. And I'm wondering, without it being told, that she was the anonymous tip. However, anonymous tip is supposed to be anonymous, so I'm glad they didn't tell me, because that means it was anonymous. White was charged with 6 counts of second-degree murder and pleaded not guilty due to insanity. He had a whole reasoning there. We'll get to that. There are a ton of television shows on White in this case. Here are a few. White's crimes were profiled in a 1999 episode of A&E's program Investigative Reports titled Copycat Crimes. In 2012, Investigation Discovery show Evil, Season 1, Episode 8, Midnight Prowler. The Investigation Discovery channel, Evil Lives Here. I invited him in, which we just talked about. The Reels channel broadcast Season 2, Episode 5 of the series Copycat Killers, titled RoboCop, tying Nathaniel White's killings to the RoboCop franchise. We'll touch on that. And in 2022, Oxygen Network series Twisted Killers made an episode about the investigation, Season 1, Episode 3, Overkilled. Now, Cinemaholic.com an episode or an article titled, Where is Nathaniel White Now? This article states that unlike the instability of most serial killers, Nathaniel had a normal childhood. He had a good relationship with his parents. I mean, normally you look back at some of these murderers and they blame their parents because of the bad childhood they had. That's not the case. He graduated high school in 1979 and served in the Army until 1983. So to explain the year in prison for the misdemeanor that I was struggling with, because I was like, wow, they really didn't believe old dude didn't try to kidnap her. But when he was caught, he was still on parole for the robbery, the convenience store robbery. So that made a whole lot more sense. Excuse me. And it might have made more sense had we had time periods through all of this, and we didn't. So, his MO, this was never mentioned, so his MO was the same for when he killed all the women. He beat and stabbed them to death. To death. And apparently there was a bloody fingerprint found in one of the scenes. And when they had taken Nathaniel in and was questioning him and told him about that fingerprint is when he confessed to all the murders. So he was brought in for one, confessed to all 6. So Nathaniel claimed that the voices he heard in his head when drunk drove him to kill the 6 women, and that he had been inspired by scenes from RoboCop 2 and a vampire movie. Like I said, I won't get into detail on what he did to these women, but he stabbed and beat them, and that was his insanity plea. Again, Nathaniel was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder. He was later sentenced to 25 years to life for each charge, meaning that today, at the age of 61, he is serving his 150-year prison penalty at the maximum security Elmira Correctional Facility, The Hill, in upstate New York. He will be eligible for parole in 2138. Only a measly 113 years from now. He'll never get out. I pray that this stays that way. So, again, I'm on cinemaholic.com, and I found an article titled, Where's Jill Garrison Now? And just a little bit to end the story. Jill was in her mid-20s and newly divorced when she met White. They met in 1986. And this is just the timeline. So they were together for a number of years before he started killing in 91 and was caught in 92. I'm thinking, what set him off? So, yeah, his first kill was in 91. They were living together in 1986. So there's absolutely no reason for her to think, she thought he was normal. There's no reason why he wouldn't. So after she visited White in jail, she cut off all ties and contacts with him and began rebuilding her life. She wanted closure. She didn't really get it, but she gave it to herself. So there are tons of articles, like I said, because there's tons of TV shows about this. But I'm not going to go into each one of those. Just talking about the evil lives here. So we're going to end it on this note. I feel for Jill. I really do, and her children. I hope they can rebuild from this and move forward. But, yeah, you just don't know about people. You just don't know. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the look? Not crazy about the eyes. It didn't go as I wanted. I should have stuck with a black smoky with the pink. But you live and you learn. So, anyways, thank you for joining. And until next time, guys, bye.